Hello everyone and welcome to my coloring corner. Today is Tips and Tricks Tuesday and we have a giveaway to do today. So I'm just going to quickly go through the books that I'm giving away. We will do the drawing at the end of today's video. So the first one, of course, is Adorable Animals. It's a grayscale coloring book by Jane Madej, and it has some wonderful, wonderful grayscale pictures in it. Absolutely fantastic book that will help you understand where your shadows should be, as well as enhance your coloring abilities with shadowing and so forth. The reason why I'm giving away Jane Madej's books is because she has a fantastic little tutorial for coloring grayscale in the front of her book. She gives you the way to layer, coloring light to dark, doing transparent versus opaque, things like that, as well as the different tools that you can use, a lot of different techniques that you can use to color with grayscale. It is a fantastic book for introducing you to grayscale. I personally, when I first got this book, I was in awe. It was so wonderful. I went through and I did the tutorial. If you want to see that, I have it stuck somewhere. I should have pulled it out and I didn't. I put it away so that I wouldn't mix it up with the other one. Oh, there it is. I did pull it out because I'm coloring in it. So this one's mine. And as you can see, I've bookmarked things and that sort of stuff. So when you start your book, it goes through your coloring tools. It gives you a little bit of a tutorial on the first page about coloring grayscale and that sort of thing. This is my gradual progression through it. I colored the little bunny. You can use colored pencils. She also shows you how it's going to look with different things, brush markers, pastels, colored pencils, stuff like that. Mine is not as wonderful as hers, but it's pretty good. And, the cat, I colored this one. And the bird, I think I did absolutely wonderfully on the bird, if I do say so myself. And the apple, I did really good on the apple too. I think it's pretty close to this one. And I can't remember which one's the one I did on this one. I think it's this one, but yes, it's this one. They all look so good. I was going through the book and I'm going, oh my goodness, did I actually color that like that? And I, of course, colored all of these. So it gives you a lot of practice. I love the fact that you can take the pages out of the book and work on them that way. I am currently working on a page from this book, and it's, not finished, of course. When you get to this stage and you look at your page and it looks off, it doesn't look quite as bright as you would expect it to. Wait until you're finished with the entire page and then go back through and brighten those colors that you want to be a bit brighter. I have found with grayscale that because of the amount of gray on the page, it does dull down the colors until all of that gray is filled in. So wait until you are at a point on the page where all of the colors are filled in, and then go back and up your color strength a bit. If you do it too early, you may end up putting too much color in and ending up with something that's not the right color. So that's the one I'm working on. And like I said, it gives you a wonderful tutorial at the front of the book. It gives you little ones that you can take out and, photocopy and, do it over and over and over again until you have it right, until you're at the point where you think that you're really good, or until you're satisfied that you can move on. You don't have to move on if you're not satisfied with what you're doing and if you're having problems with it. I find that moving on from those pages and into the bigger pages, although intimidating, it was fairly simple. Her paper is fantastic. It's a nice thick paper, and her pictures are just absolutely adorable. I just love her pictures. I've colored this one too. Sometimes it's a little difficult to see what things are, and the great thing about Jane's book is that in the back of the book is a wonderful area of colored pictures. So if you have difficulties knowing what something is, like for example, on this page, I had a lot of difficulty figuring out that that was his tail. So I had to check the picture and figure out what that was. So you can go through and you can go back and forth to the pictures and know what you're coloring, so that, if you have a question about what something is because it's a little too dark, this will give you a really good idea of what that object is. I didn't see the bee the first time either. It took me a little while to see the bee because he kind of blends in. But yes, it can be intimidating. And that's one of the reasons why I really love Jane's books, because she does publish with the picture available to look at. So it makes it so much easier to make sure that you're coloring the appropriate colors. So, for example, if you were coloring, well, this picture isn't all that great, for example. Most of her pages are pretty clear, but every once in a while you get an oddity, like this area here where the flowers come down, the vine comes down. There's a little bit of a vine there down here at the bottom of the page where you can see the vine. But underneath the vine is another area. Well, that's actually the shadow of the vine. It isn't part of the vine. And when you look at the colored picture, you can definitely see that that's the shadow. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, is shadows and where to put them and that sort of thing. So we're going to work on that today, and we're going to probably color a wonderful page out of Camelia Anjakova's line art book of Spring Miniatures. So that's the one of the books that I'm giving away. The other one is Super Cute Animals. And the reason why I'm giving this one away is the same reason as the other one, is because she does give a wonderful tutorial as you move through the front of the book on tools and materials, color basics, the basic colors, coloring palettes, different palettes that complement each other, that are, and what they're called, as well as adding different doodles and stuff like that. Shading, blending, and with colored pencils, how to shade, how to blend. adding small details to enhance, things like that. This is something that I just actually didn't know, and this book taught me, is that you can blend your water-based markers with water. It's logical. I didn't think of it. And now I really want to go and grab all my watercolor markers and play with them so that I can blend. I've done it with the colorless blender before, but I've never done it with a paintbrush with water. Using your watercolor markers like paint so that you can, do a gradual effect. Coloring with alcohol-based markers, how to color the base, how to shade, different things like that. And to me, that is the most valuable thing that anybody can ever put in any of their coloring books. It's just a quick little step-by-step logical bit of information on how to color in your book. These pages are really nice. They're quite thick and they are removable. So as you go through, you can remove the page. I am a page turner, so coloring in a book drives me crazy. But like I said, you can remove these pages and put them on top of something that if you want to use markers, the markers, of course, will go through. So you just got to put something behind it to protect it. Of course, they are single-sided, so nothing on the back side of the page is going to get ruined if you decide to use markers, which is another fantastic thing altogether. And the pictures in these books are just darling. I'm not one for the doodling. I'm not very fond of the doodling, but it's at a level that it's not overpowering. The ones that really get tight into the doodling is a little overpowering for me. But these are quite cute. Absolutely pretty little pictures. Little kitty in the tree. Now, most of these pictures, because they are facing you, you're going to have some pictures that you're not going to know how to put the shadows in because the light is coming from you. So basically, as long as you look directly at the picture, as if you were the sun. I do apologize, my phone is ringing. It won't go to the machine. So as long as you're looking at the picture and as if you're the sun, look at how the sun hits things head on, and then look behind it. So if you're the sun and say you're coloring this page here, this is going to have a shadow. The bird is going to have a shadow in behind it. This area here is going to have a shadow. So you'll be able to find the areas that your shadows are going to be just by looking at it as if you were the light. This one here is a little more difficult, and I wouldn't put a lot of shadows on this one beyond on the hedgehog. Under his chin, behind his ear, up under here where his body goes over top of his feet, that sort of thing. The side of his face, because this side of his face would be shadowed, while this side of his face would not. I haven't gotten very well at shadowing underwater either, so that will be one of the things that we will have to learn together because I'm not great with that either. So, but with line art, like I said to you last Tuesday, some artists will give you different hints, different clues of where their shadow where they expect the light source to be. Sometimes it's just a couple of extra thick lines. Sometimes it's a couple of dots, different things that tell you where those lines are going to be. With things like this line art, that's a doodly line art, it can be a little bit more difficult to figure out where those shadows are going to be. Sometimes, for example, this one, as long as you continue to remember that you're the light, whatever is in front is going to have a shadow. So this is going to have a shadow. The cups are going to have a shadow. These leaves are going to have a shadow. Anything that's in the front of the picture is going to be shadowed a lot more and have a deeper shadow than, say, something that's further back. And that will give your eye a dimension to work with. For example, this here, inside of here will be dark because the light doesn't go all the way in there. So the further into the pot itself that you go, the darker it gets. So here, where it's at the start of the end of the frog here, would be a little bit lighter. As you get deeper into here, it gets a lot darker. Your edges, of course, will be the color of the pot. Your frog here and down here will be lighter than your frog back here. Same with here because he's in the pot a little bit here, so his arm would have a shadow from the pot. The pot, of course, would have a shadow from the bird. Ones like this that are just a wallpaper type of thing, you can, of course, put a small shadow around each thing, because when you put, say I've got my hand here, and you can see the shadow under my hand. Now, if I take a light, I'm going to try this one, but I'll try not to blind you with it. I'm going to turn it down to almost nothing here. So if we take a light and we put our hand down with a brighter light over top, so say my light is the sun, because these are flat on the wallpaper, they're going to have less of a shadow than if they were away from it. So see the difference there between how close things are and how much of a shadow it has? The further away something is, the larger the shadow is. So as I move closer to the light, it casts more of a shadow under my hand. So that's one of the ways that you'll have to look at things is where the light source is, how far away. So for example, this cat here is further away from the basket than these berries. So you would draw his shadow a little bit deeper than the berry shadow. The leaf shadow would even be less because it's right up against the basket. Same with the butterfly here. It'll be less because it's right up against the basket. So wherever your shadows are and wherever your light source is where your shadows are going to be deeper and less. For example, the cat here, his shadow is going to go backwards because the light is right here. So if the light is here and you're the light, and then you put something here, try not to knock that light over. Try to do this without knocking the light over. So I'm just going to put it on my keyboard tray here. So you see where my hand is, how that, as I get closer to the light, and I knocked it over, as I get closer to the light, the more of a shadow. So because he's fairly close to the basket, but not as close as, say, the berries or the leaves, his shadow is going to be a little bit more than the shadows of the leaves and the berries. And I'll show you how to draw that or how to add that on a line art today. So we'll walk through that and take a look at that today. And I'm flipping through this just as quickly as I can, just to give you an idea of what's in the book. I'm not going to review this book because I want you to, well, be on today. I will do a flip through at some point with the book, but I wanted you guys to see it first because you're going to be winning it. You know, for example, this one here, if the front is the light source, the bunny and everything else, like right underneath the bunny, will be a shadow, but it's overhanging the cup a little bit. So on the saucer, the shadow will be a little bit more because of the bunny and the flowers. So the saucer would have a deep shadow right underneath the cup, and then a little bit of a shadow on the outside of the cup area where the plants and everything else are causing more of a shadow. So the shadow, see how my hand is? So if the light was coming from here, or coming straight down, everything under that is going to have a shadow. If you're looking at it straight on and you're the light, the areas that are going to be shadowed would be behind the teacup and under the rabbit's paws and his bow, and back here, which is the inside of the teacup behind the rabbit. So all of the rabbit's shadow would be on the back side of the teacup here. I'm going to turn off that light because it's making the camera go all funky. But it's an absolutely wonderful little book. Well, I won't say little. It's got quite a few pages in it. And like I said, they are all removable. So if you want to color something, for example, the hummingbird, I'm no good at coloring hummingbirds. However, if I wanted to color this page and I wasn't sure about it and was worried that I was going to mess it up, this page is removable. So I would actually remove it, scan it into my computer, and print it off on a couple of test sheets before I colored this page out of the book. The paper in this book is really, really nice. It's very smooth, so it's fantastic for markers, but it still has enough tooth in it to use colored pencils on it as well. However, you may not get as many layers as you would, say, in the grayscale book, because the grayscale gives it a little bit more tooth. But you never know. It all depends upon your pencils. It depends upon the paper. It depends upon your pressure. It also depends upon the sharpness of your pencils. Okay, and that is the final page. Of course, on the back area here, it goes into some information about the author, as well as some other instructional inspirations on how to color and stuff like that. All right, so those are the two wonderful books that we will be doing a draw for. If you commented on the last week's Tips and Tricks Tuesday, you received a number, and I will go and check those in a bit here. And from that number, I will do a random drawing, and we will figure out who's going to win these wonderful books. Now I have to find a place for them so that I don't lose them. I'll put them up under here. No, don't drop the coffee. Almost knocked over my coffee. All right, so let's switch over to the close-up camera here, and we're going to brighten that. Now, we're going to color in this book today, which is the 50 Spring Miniatures, but we're going to do that on the main camera. I've put you on the close-up camera so you can see the blocks that we did last time. Now, what we're going to do today is we're going to do two different things. We're going to add a highlight as well as add a shadow. So I'm just going to grab my color board here so that I have a hard surface to work on. I apologize for the train. And the first one we're going to work on is the squares, and we're going to add the shadow. So we've got the light here. So as you can see from the pencil, you can see the shadow maybe underneath the pencil. So wherever the pencil is furthest away, so this area here, into this area here, into this area here, is going to be your shadow. And of course, it's going to get lighter the further away it gets from the object, because the object isn't blocking it all of the light, it's blocking some of the light. Do apologize, the train seems to be very long today. So the further away it gets from the light source, or from the blocking source, which is the square, the lighter that shadow is going to become. So this area right here, right underneath the block and into the corner here, is going to be darker. My sketch pencil is probably not the best thing to be using for this. And then as you get further away, it gets lighter. So remember to graduate your color when you're adding a shadow, when you're doing a shadow. Now this one here is right above. So your shadow is going to be down here, but it's going to be minimal because the light is right above your source, your blockage. You can extend it out just a touch, but leave the darkest areas right at the base, and then just extend it out just a little bit with a lighter touch. Now this one here, of course, it's the same thing. It's going this way though. So you extend your shadows out from your base. This area here is going to have a little bit of one, and it's going to start really thin up here and get a little wider towards the back. And this area here is going to be shadow. So of course, right up at the base, we go nice and hard. And then of course, we're going to have a shadow on the other side as well. But that side's not seen very well, so we're just going to put a little bit there. But right up at the base, put a nice hard layer, and then just bring it in and lighten as you go. Up here will be nice and light, down here will be hard, deeper. So hard, medium, and then light, so that you can get your shadow graduated. Right up here against the block, it'll be nice and hard, but as you come out, graduate it into a lighter shade. And you can do that with your colored pencils. Now, if there's something else in front of this, it's going to have the shadow from that and then the shadow from the other thing as well. So I'm going to show you that here. with these ones. So the sun is up here in the corner. So the shadow is moving down. This one is in front of this one, so it's got the shadow from that. But then we've also got the shadow here from those two objects. Of course, it's going to be darker up against the object and lighter the further away it gets. Same with here. So if the object, the light is hitting this area, there's going to be a shadow here, a little bit more here, a little bit of a shadow here, and then as it gets further away, you get a rounder shadow, a wider shadow here at the base. If that makes sense. And of course, I'm off camera, so I do apologize. So as we come down to the base of this, we've got the shadow added to that. So this one here is right above. So the shadow is going to be down here. Of course, we've got the shadow here from this one overlapping this one, but the shadow is going to be down here at the base. Of course, it's going to be darker right up in here. I'm going to use my black pencil crayon because this is driving me crazy. I don't know why my sketch pencil doesn't want to work with this paper. Works all the other time. Okay, so we've got a darker shadow up here. And then as we move away from the objects, it gets a little bit lighter. Okay, so if that makes sense. Now this one is the opposite direction, and the orbs are facing a different direction. So it's just the same as this one here, with a little more on this part. So as you come around this side, this one here is going to be a little bit further than this one, because this one is closer than this one. Okay. All right, now we have a single orb. Now this one is coming from this way, so we've got the light source here, or the light area here, and the shadowing on the object here. And of course, we've also got a shadowing under and behind the object because the sun, the light source is coming from that angle. So you just do a little bit of darker down at the bottom base here, and where it's touching the surface. And then the part that's not touching the surface is still causing a shadow, but it's a little bit lighter than what's touching the surface. So then we just add a little bit more. And of course, my ability to draw orbs is terrible, so I'm sorry. But you can do that in either if that makes sense. Now this one here is behind it. So this entire area is lit up. So there won't be a lot of shadow from this unless there was something else behind it. Now this one here is straight above, So the shadow from this orb is going to be very minimal on where it's touching the surface that it's on. And that's it. It won't be a huge deep shadow. Now, because this one is coming from this way, of course, where it's going to touch, it's going to have a shadow. And it's going to extend out from the behind area. Like that. Okay. So those are our objects and the shadows that are going to be created from this light source. So as you can see, like if I was to do this, oh, maybe not. It's not going to work because the light's right above it. See if I was to, of course, I'm off camera now, so I'll show you in a bit here. If you put the blockage here, you can see where that shadow is going to move. So there's going to be a shadow a little bit here, but down here it's going to be more. If you just follow the pencil shadow, you can see where that shadow is going to be. Now, if I put it straight up and down like this, you're not going to see a shadow from the pencil. You see a shadow from my finger, but not from the pencil. And that's why we have just a little bit underneath the ball where it's going to be touching the surface. This one is the same way. You take your pencil, go from your light source, and the shadow is the point, is from that point behind the object. Okay, so now we're going to add light points, so the highlights. Now we can do this several different ways. We can do that with a gel pen. We can also do this with an eraser. So we can do that with a gel pen, or we can use our electric eraser or just a basic eraser. That is up to you. Just when you use an eraser, make sure that you rub it on a piece of paper or your desk or something and remove that color off of your tip. Otherwise, you're going to end up transferring it to the next area. So we're going to do these ones with a white gel pen. And this is an Arteza 0.6. And our light spot is going to be where of course, my pen has decided that it's not going to write. So there we go. So where the sun is hitting it is where your light source is going to be. Now, because I've used such a light color here, it makes it more difficult to see with the white. If this was a very dark color, you would see it a lot more. This one here, you might see it better. So it's straight above. So our light source or our light spot or highlight is at the height of where it's going to hit. This one here is over here, so our highlight is going to be where the light is going to hit. There. So if that makes sense. Now on this one here, I'm going to show you with an eraser and just a small point eraser so that you can see just the area that the sun is going to hit. So like that. Now the sun is going to hit here and here. And those are our light points or our highlights. The sun is going to hit here. And this is where the height is right here. Okay, and then this one here, I'm going to put the highlights in using the electric eraser. And what we're going to do with this one is we're just going to do it in the very corner that is facing the light source. Here it'd be right dead in the center of our square because the sun is right above. And same with this side. We're going to go right up the corner and down the corner and then in just a little bit to see where that light is hitting it. Now, an electric eraser will take off more of the color than a pinpoint eraser. Like, for example, say the light source was on this side, and I just used my pinpoint eraser. It's going to lift off the first layer if you don't do it really hard. If you do it really hard, it's going to lift off more than the first layer. But it's going to lighten that a little bit more and create more of a graduation. But you can push down and put that edge in without any problems. The electric eraser, I find, takes off a little bit too much sometimes. So get to know your electric eraser and what it will do and how much it's going to take off and how much pressure you need to put on it, that sort of thing, before you start erasing things with it. Okay, and those are our highlights. I hope that made sense to you all. So we've done shadows and highlights on different light sources and where they're coming from. Now we're going to switch back over to the main screen here, and we're going to take a picture, and I have put one where is it? There it is. Now I have chosen one, and the reason why I chose this one is because there's a light source present in the picture. So we have a light source here with this little candle. So anything in the vicinity of the candle is going to be lit up with the candle colors. So anything that isn't in that vicinity is going to be in a shadow. So I'm going to grab a gray, and I'm going to try to make it as light of a gray as I can, but I want to make it darker gray for you guys. So you will do this with a lighter gray than what I'm using. I'm doing this darker so that you guys can see what I'm doing. So this area here is all in shadow. Now I've got it darker shadow in the back, and I'll lighten it as I come forward. This here is a darker shadow in the back, and then lighter as you come forward. This area here is also shadowed by this flower, lighter as you come forward. Go around your shadow, your flower area that's going to be shadowed. Now this artist has given some clues on different areas that are going to be shadowed with these little lines, because of course a honey hive or a beehive is not completely flat, it is layered. And with the layer lines, each layer protrudes a little bit above the next. And you can just add a little bit of a darker color here and give that shadow effect. I'm doing it with gray just to show you the where the shadow could be and should be. Now, with our door frame here, now the underneath here is going to be shadowed as well. This is going to have a darker shadow into here. And same with under here. Now the light is coming down here, but it's not as bright in this area. This area here will be brighter. This area here will be brighter because it's right up against the light source. In your doorway, because the light source is there, your door frame is here, so it's blocking it. So this area here is going to be darker than this area over here. Same with your frame itself. This area here is going to be lighter than this area here. This area here is not going to be as dark as this area here, but it's still going to be darker than this area here. Same with over here. It's going to be darker, and this side here will be even more dark, if that is a word. And this side here will be darker. Same with up here. This curve here will be darker than over here. And you just put a little bit of a shadow present, and then you can of course color over that with a colored pencil. Here, I'll switch you over to the close-up camera and see if I can get that to show for you. Let me move that a little bit. I've got things on my desk that are blocking me. Okay, so I hope that makes it a little bit clearer. Underneath here, because the light is coming down, this is going to block any light from coming in underneath. So right up against it is really dark. And then as you move further away, it lightens a bit. Like that. Same with up here. Now the light is shining this way, so stuff underneath here on this side would be darker, or lighter, I mean, because your light is coming this way. But there's still going to be a slight shadow there. So use a light shadow. Don't put a really dark one underneath your roof ridge. This one here, this side here, is going to get blocked a little bit more because the light source is against it. So you can bring that shadow a little bit darker under there. Don't extend it out because this entire face is in the light source. The area that's not in the light source, we can put the shadow darker in. Down here on the dark side of the window frame, down here would be the dark side of the window frame. So we'll put darker shadows in those areas. Same with here. But because this side is being touched by that light, we're going to leave it alone. Now, the opposite is true on the window because the frame sticks out further than the window. So this frame is blocking this light. So the frame here would be shadowed on the inside and not shadowed on the inside of this one, because the light is coming. It's being blocked here and it's hitting here. So your shadows will be, this area is hitting, so this area is shadowed. This area here is not shadowed as much, but because it's a small area, the shadows from this area are going to come in and block those windows, if that makes sense. Now, of course, there may be always a slight shadow underneath the window because that is not curved. This is. So there's going to be a slight shadow from the blockage of that, but it's not going to be a huge shadow. Just like on this side, it's not a huge shadow. It's barely a shadow at all. But here we have a thicker shadow from this blockage and less of a shadow here. With this blockage, we've got more of a shadow on this side and less of a shadow on that side. Same with over here. We're going to have a bit of a shadow, but no shadow over here. Now, the tricky part. We have a light source here. However, we have a solid mass here. So our light source is going to come up and it's going to wrap onto this area here. However, it's not going to get completely up here. So we're going to put in a shadow here. Now, I am working under the assumption that the only light source in this picture is this candle. Of course, it's outside, so there's probably other light sources, but I'm working under the assumption that this is the only light source. Now I've put in a shadow at the top of the dome and left this area here alone where that light is going to bounce off and hit. Now you can put in a small shadow here if you wish, just to enhance that bridge, that curve. Same with down here. Now this one here, the entire bottom part here, because it is so small, I would shadow. Now, another area that you're going to end up with shadows, of course, is on the roof area. So we've got a branch that comes down through a hole on the tree. So this branch and this area here, this is going to get hit with some of that light. So back here is going to be shadowed. Right here is going to be shadowed. This area is going to be shadowed because the light's hitting that flower. This area here is going to be shadowed from that branch there. Now the back side of the roof is also going to be shadowed the same as the back side of the hive was because it's in the dark area. Now there's a flower there which is going to cause more of a shadow, so we'll put that in as well. And we're going to bring that shadow forward and put it in to the back side of this area on the roof as well. Now I'm doing it thinner here because it's showing the front as well. So if you take this line and go to here and then go down, this should be the back side of that roof line, but it comes into the front instead of large ways. And she's doing that to make it look three-dimensional, which it definitely does. Okay, another thing is your shingles. you're going to have a shadow under your shingles where they connect. So the further away from the light source it is, the bigger the shadow is going to be. Of course, the closer it is, it's just a little shadow. Of course, we also have the shadow of the roof line where the shingles hang over the fascia board. Now, because this area here is direct, right in front there, it's not going to be as shadowed. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. Now, what we're going to do to color that, now I've used a much darker gray than I would suggest you use. I would suggest you use a very light toned gray. This one here is warm gray light. You can use a warm tone or a dark, cool tone depending upon what you're coloring. It doesn't really matter. You're going to color over it. Now I'm going to grab my beehive colors. Now I'm going to do this with browns and yellows because of the light. So I've got, of course, it'd be smart if I went and grabbed my color chart, but I'm not all that smart today, so just going to wing it. We're going to wing it. And of course, my colored pencil is dull. Now, because I've put the gray down, when I go over this with my colored pencil, that gray shows through. And it works just like a grayscale. You go over it, and basically you've grayscaled it yourself. Now you can go over this, say with a dark brown color, and then with the light brown color, and you will get better at this as you go along, or you may just get it right away. You could do this with just the dark color of whatever you're choosing to do. And that still gives the shadow effect. Sometimes using a gray works a lot better depending upon what you're putting it on. If you're putting a shadow, say, on the beehive here, using a darker color would work just fine. However, if you were putting it on say, concrete or on a road, on a path, that sort of thing, I would suggest that you use a cold gray or a black. Now I'm just doing the shadow areas with this darker color, and then I'll come through with the yellow and brighten that up, well, with a yellow brown, and brighten that up and lighten that up with the colors from the candle. Of course, the areas that are closest to the candle are going to be brighter than the areas further away. So we will be moving that tone throughout the picture here, of course. Now I'm doing this very, very quickly. Of course, you would probably want to take a little bit more time with it, a little bit more caution with it if you wanted to. But basically all we're doing is we're just putting in where we would see a shadow. And that's the great thing about grayscale and color in grayscale, is it does give you a lot more ability to see where those shadows are going to be most prominent, and give you the ability to move them around and that sort of thing. Now I'm going to take this lighter brown and I'm going to go from the dark brown into the lighter brown. And we're going to move that down towards the candle. Now this is all lit up, but it's not a strong light area. This area here, the closer to the candle, is the strong light area. So take your pencil and envision a circle. So if we wanted to, we could take, say, this lid. Let's wipe it out because it's got peanut residue in it. We can take this lid and put it over top of our light source. And everything that isn't contacted by that light source gets residual light. So we've got on the beehive, everything to here needs to be in this color. And we're going to just bring it in just a little bit so that when I add that other color, it will blend into it a bit. So just extend it out just enough. Make sure that you cover any areas that might have a little bit of darkness to them. And like I said, we're just extending that color out, blending it together. And of course, where the lighter colors are, we will be adding, where the lighter areas are, we'll be adding a yellow. And like I said, I'm doing this very quickly just to give you an idea of that light source and where it's going to be. Now I have a lighter pencil here, I hope. Which one is this? No, I think it's this one that I want. Yeah. Now this is a yellow ochre, so it's a light yellowy brown color. And I'm just going to go over this very, very lightly. I'm not pressing hard at all, and I'm not even filling in all the pencil line. Just giving that area the lightest coat of that brown color so that when I go over it with an actual yellow, so this is Chinese yellow, it still has the color of the hive, but then has the yellow showing through from the color of the lantern's light. Now I'm just doing the hive right now because I haven't done the door frame colors or anything like that. But as you can see at the edge of the hive here, where it's closest to the light, we have the brightest color. So as you get to the edge, make sure that you press a little bit harder and get more of that color in. Just make sure that you drag it out and fill in that light line. Of course, this area here on the roof, once we've done this roof color, we'll add this yellow as well. Now, of course, another thing that you can do to make sure that you have a proper line area is you can draw. You can put this over top and just draw around it so that you can see where you want that to be. Now, underneath the roof line there, we're going to go a little bit darker just because the roof is going to be blocking off some of that light. Not a lot of it, but some of it. And we're just going to fill that in and make it a little bit darker. Like I said, we're not making this as dark as back there, but we do have to make this, the proper graduation color from the yellow, so that we know that that yellow is on top of another color. If you did this straight onto white, you would end up with a very, very bright yellow color, and we don't want that. We just want a lighting effect on top of the brown. So anywhere that you see that your yellow is way too bright and you want to add a little bit of that hive color to it, do so. Don't hold back on your color. Just try to graduate your color tones into each other. Like back here is darker than up here. I'm going to take that darker pencil again, and I'm just going to fill that in a little bit more and a little bit darker. And like I said, the gray scale, the gray effect that we've added will help with that. If you don't want to add the gray, you don't have to. It was added basically to show you where you can add your shadows and how you can add your shadows first and still color over top of it. That gray is going to show through and give you that shadow effect. Now, if you wanted to do this all in one color, like for example, say you put in your grays with your colored pencil and you just wanted to go over top of the entire thing with your marker, you could definitely do that. As long as your marker color was lighter than your grayscale, your gray, then you could do that. I don't know if it would work if you used colored marker. And then went over it again with marker. Another thing you can do, of course, is you can do the grayscale with marker, which will keep the integrity of the tooth of your paper a little bit better than colored pencil. Okay, so there's our shadows on our beehive. We're going to do the door, and I think I'm going to do the door in some nice blues. So we've got a dark blue and a lighter blue, I think. Yeah, hopefully. Like I said, I could take out my swatch sheet, but I'm being lazy. And I'm winging it. Now, when you do your door color, because of the fact that we're going to be doing the door in blue, you take your darker blue and you do your shadows. But you also go through and you do your lines, because your panels are going to have a little shadow in themselves. So is the green. You know, you can stop when you get to the door handle because that will be a different color in itself. Okay. And like I said, just do it gradual into the corner. And this side here is going to be less than this side, and this side is more than this side. Then we just take our lighter color and we blend into it. We bring that color out and blend right into that grayscale that we put on, the gray tone that we put in. The gray tone, of course, will give us that shadow that we wanted, just like a grayscale would. And like I said, you don't have to put that gray in. I find that it does help quite a bit, especially when you're using lighter colors, on establishing that that's a shadow. Now I've done over here very, very lightly because I don't want to put the yellow on the door, because the yellow is going to turn the door green. So we're going to put a small amount of the yellow just in the areas that I have left the white spot open, but I'm not going to press hard. So I'm not going to blend that in to the blue. I'm putting enough there so that you can see that that light is hitting it. Now this part here, we want to be lighter because it's got the residual light of the candle. So we're just going to take our lighter pencil and just add a little bit of the light. Now, if you find that it's not enough, just go back over into your shadow areas with your darker pencil and make sure that that's dark enough. So that you get the effect of the door frame being blocked by that light. Now we're going to do our door frame, and we're going to do that in a nice dark brown. And we're going to use a lighter brown, maybe, yeah. Now, with darker colors, you have to be fairly careful that you don't overtake an area. If you're going to put a darker color down on a shadow area, just put it on the shadow area. Don't cover your entire area with that darker color. Like, for example, if I was to put this entire door frame this color, it's going to cover all of those shadow areas that I've put in, and you won't see the shadow anymore. So if I just do the shadow areas, you'll still see the shadows under the door frame color. And once again, I am doing this very, very quickly. Now I have lightened up my hand here, And I'm just putting enough of that color in so that when I go over it with the lighter color of the yellow, that you're going to see that that color is there. Back here, I do it a little bit harder, and as it gets closer to the light source, you lift up your hand a little bit and make it lighter. And then we're going to go in with the yellow and just very lightly add that yellow. Don't blend it into the color of your undercoat, otherwise you'll get an orangey color. If you do it very lightly, you'll get that yellow color that you want. Okay. Now we're going to do the same thing over here with both the blues, the dark blue and the light blue. However, we're going to do it a little bit differently because the window frame itself is far enough away, especially on this back side, that half of it is going to be darker than the other half. So we're going to, of course, do our shadow areas, which is the back side of this frame here, which is further away from the light source, but it's not right up against it, so it's not going to get that yellow look. So we're not worried about it turning green. So we're going to do it a little bit darker in the areas that we would expect them to be dark. Okay, and then we're going to take our lighter color and we're just going to fill in this side, leaving enough of a draw out. Because what we're going to do is we're going to fill in this side darker because it is in the shadow. It is in the darker area of the picture. You know, sometimes you don't have to have a coverage to have a shadow. Just as long as it's further away from the light source, it's going to have more of a shadowed area or a darker area where that light source isn't hitting it. Then we're going to do this part here as well, and this area here because it's in the shadow. And then we're going to take this lighter blue and we're going to extend that. I'm just going to do it very, very lightly with the same blue that I used on the back side and the same blue I used on the door. But I'm just doing it very, very lightly here. A good light layer to show the color. And then we're going to lighten it up a bit with a lighter color to show that it's been hit with that light. Now, of course, you can put a highlight here just to show that there's a light source hitting it. Now, how you can do the light source is you can take your eraser, if I remember what I did with it. There it is. You can take your small eraser and you can just down the edge that is pointing towards the light source, just take a bit of that color off. Just so it looks like that is lighter than the rest of the window. And when you're coloring over top of your lighter color, your darker color. Only color your light color down to those points that you've erased. And that will give you a better view of the light to dark. If you feel there's too much of a line, just bring that together, make this side a little bit darker. Of course, there's white spot all over the place, but I'm doing this quickly, so it's not going to bother me. I'll come back through and I'll clean it up, but and just at the edges here, just put a little bit more of a darkness there. Now we're going to do the same thing here in the center. We're going to do this entire thing in that blue, the same as this side, because it is indented. You're not going to get as much of the light to have it this color, but you're getting enough of the light that you don't have to have it that color. So I'm using a medium blue, and I'll go back in and add that dark blue again if I end up erasing it with the medium blue. Because sometimes you can end up going over a dark area a little bit too much, and you can end up erasing the color that you had there that would be darker. And then we're going to take our light blue and we're going to fill in the windows here. Now, because she's not home, we could have done these windows in a black to show that the house was empty. Now, of course, I could go over these windows with a gray and darken them out. Or I can show that there's somebody home by taking my eraser and making a light source in the window. If you do this, you then have to put the light source outside the window. So I will probably, like for example, if I was to do this and make the light coming out of the windows there, I would have to take a sharper one and put a light source on the outside of the windows here. To show that that window is lit up. And that's not showing very well. So if I did that, I would have to come in through here and I'll erase it a bit so I can add that light source. Then we can just add a bit of yellow around the windows to show that there's a light coming through the window, like that. And of course we've got a light coming through there. Okay, so that is how we color a lit area. Now, I'm not going to be able to finish this with you today, so we will, of course, continue to work on it. So we'll end up doing the lantern and the roof and the rest of the picture. And work on different parts of shading, of blending, and things like that. I hope that this has been helpful, and I hope that you continue watching, and I hope that I have lots of hopes. I hope that I'm able to help everyone understand um, how to put in their shadows, how to add a little bit of gray just to give that shadow area a bit of oomph, how to gradually move that light from front to back, and that sort of thing. If you, of course, have any questions or anything that you want me to show you that I haven't shown you during this part of Colored Pencils 101, leave me a message in the comments section below, and I will be happy to try to incorporate it into my next video or into one of the videos coming up. I have had a request for wood, so we will do that at some point as well. All right, guys, I've been going on at you now for about an hour and a half, so let's do the fun stuff now. And we're going to open our YouTube and our last week's video and take a look at how many people were entered. So let's take a look. So we have 17 people entered. So I will bring up so let's see, because yeah, 17. All right, so now I'm going to bring up my random.org and I'm going to share that page with you so that you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so that should be showing you random.org. Let's move it over here so I can see what is going on. Okay, so there's random.org for you. There we go. So we have 0 to 17. So let's 0 to 18 because we want number 17 to be in there as well. And we're going to hit generate. And number one is the winner of our coloring books. So I will go through and I will message that person. So let's take a look here. Okay, so I'm going to stop screen share, and then I'm going to go message whoever was number 1 and let you all know so that you of course I closed the screen, so comments, there we go. And newest first. And then we'll scroll all the way down to the bottom. And Ashley is number 1. and I will message her here. Of course, Ashley, if you can email me um, your address and name and that sort of thing, and I will send these two wonderful, wonderful books out to you. So we have the Adorable Animals Grayscale Coloring Book, as well as the Color Super Cute Animals by Jane Madej, going to Ashley. And I am just putting a message on her entry that she has won the giveaway. All right, guys. Well, I thank you very much for joining me. I hope you have enjoyed this video and the giveaway. I hope that I have been able to help you understand how to add shadows to your picture, as well as how to add a light source and work from that light source. Um, if you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to put them in the comment section below. I will be happy to answer any of them that I can get to for you. Other than that, of course, like, comment, and subscribe. If you're not already a subscriber to the channel, please hit the subscribe button and ring the bell. It will give you the notifications whenever I put up a video. I do that every day, so it will give you a good notification of that. The only day I don't put up a video is Sundays, and those are reserved for special Sundays, special parties, and things such as that. If you want to join us over on Facebook, please don't hesitate to do so. The Facebook link is listed below in the description of the video. I will list the links for both of these fantastic, well, all three of these fantastic books in the About section below. Of course, these will be affiliate links, so every time you click on one of my affiliate links, it does give me a couple of cents that goes towards the channel for content, prizes, and shipping and stuff like that. Other than that, guys, thanks so much for joining me. I can't wait to see you tomorrow for Work in Progress Wednesday. I will probably be working on that kitty cat. Not positive what we'll be working on, but I will be working on something, either the cat or something else. I'm not sure. But we will see you tomorrow. And of course, that is a live session tomorrow at 3:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So that is 5:30 p.m. Central and 6:30 p.m. Eastern. Thanks so much for joining me, guys. Have a fantastic day, and bye-bye for now.